They were 18, or 19, or 20 years old. Sailors in a tropical paradise. They didn't know that on the other side of the ocean, another group of young men was preparing to strike them while they slept. Their paths would cross for a few short hours on a Sunday morning in December. And in one terrifying instant, more than 1,000 of them would die. The legacy of what happened on December the 7th, 1941, still haunts us today. In the first images from inside the USS Arizona, an underwater cemetery that's also an ecological time bomb. In the search for a top-secret Japanese submarine that was sunk about an hour before the attack began.
The submarine's heading north, starting to dive.
And in the quest to learn what really happened that day. And most of all, it still lives on in the memories of the men who were there when everything changed.
Just a young kid when this happened. And I've lived through it. I lost a lot of my friends.
I reached down to try to help him escape. Okay, bro.
But I hope it never happens again. Nobody will ever know what it was like, except somebody that was actually there.
They never had a chance. They didn't know what was coming. Nobody knew about it. They never woke up.
This is the story of a day when the history of the world took an unexpected turn at a sleepy little port in Hawaii called Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, in the first summer of the new millennium. 60 years ago on this island, a battle was fought. Perhaps the most one-sided battle in American history. It plunged the United States into war, and in the space of little more than 2 hours, took the lives of 2,400 Americans. Ever since that day, Pearl Harbor has been a place of pilgrimage. Many of the men who lived through the attack have returned at least once to remember what happened and to pay their respects to friends who didn't make it.
We remember December 7th, 1941, when so many gave the last devotion of their efforts.
Well, it was kind of hard, yes, I'll admit it, because I couldn't do anything that the other guys could. I was only 5'3" and weighed 125 pounds. My battle station was a number 2 loader on a 5-inch gun, and I couldn't even pick up the shells that had to be put in the gun.
How can this ever happen? One of the strongest navies in the world, and we're sitting here with our pants down. We got caught, period.
It was one of the best assignments in the Navy. A sailor joining the Pacific Fleet in Hawaii could expect warm air, lots of sunshine, and plenty of things to do on shore leave. In the Atlantic theater of war, things were different. Europe had been at war for more than 2 years. Hitler's soldiers occupied Paris. London was being blitzed by Nazi bombs. For sailors stationed in the Pacific, there was only one threat on the horizon: Yet most Americans knew next to nothing about the country or its people, who were thought to be short and nearsighted. Quaint little people ruled by an old-fashioned emperor. In reality, Japan was a modern military power that had signed a pact with Nazi Germany. Japanese troops brutally occupied parts of China and were poised to move against other neighbors. But the United States Pacific Fleet stood in the way. And early in 1941, the Japanese military decided to do something about that.
Why would Japan want to go to war with the United States? What Japan wanted was the oil fields in the Dutch East Indies. What they wanted was the tin and the rubber out of Malaya. They wanted the Philippines because of its strategic location. Nobody thought that they would ever come out to Pearl Harbor. That's how you achieve surprise in war. You attack where nobody expects it.
It was the brainchild of a 57-year-old Japanese admiral named Isoroku Yamamoto. Yamamoto decided to strike the US fleet at its home base, at anchor in the cramped, shallow harbor near Honolulu.
For Yamamoto, he had studied in the United States. He had gone to Harvard. He knew what the Americans were like. And he said at one point, I don't care if we march troops down Pennsylvania Avenue, we're not going to conquer the United States. He planned the attack with the idea that if we're going to have any chance of winning this war, we've got to destroy the American fleet. And that'll give us 6 months to run wild in the Southwest Pacific. And we can build up a defensive barrier that will be very difficult for the Americans to crack. And at some point, they're going to say, we quit. You keep your gains.
In the spring of 1941, planning for the attack began in earnest, although only a handful of Japanese officers knew about it. By the autumn, Yamamoto's plan had evolved into a mammoth undertaking that would require 6 aircraft carriers, more than 350 airplanes, and, almost as an afterthought, 5 midget submarines. Those 5 midget submarines played a curious and little-known part in the attack, and an expedition is getting underway in Honolulu to learn more. One of the tiny subs almost cost Japan the critical element of surprise.
And there's only 2 outliers. Target
And
32,
that's the one undersea explorer Robert Ballard is hoping to find.
to the east.
For the man who
And all
found
of
the
a sudden,
Titanic
he's
and the
attacked.
Bismarck, this search represents a
Right in
unique
this neck of
challenge.
the woods.
It's one of the smallest ships
Target.
Ballard's ever looked for, and no one really knows where it sank.
How are you? Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. So welcome aboard.
Joining him will be a man who was part of the
Delamo will be
submarine
leaving
task
in a few
force
minutes.
6 decades ago,
And
Kichichi Dewa.
Right. And then we'll be going...
The midget submarine they'll be looking for was sunk by an American destroyer well before the attack started, and could have alerted the American forces, but did not.
So, gentlemen, I'd like to introduce some colleagues here.
Good morning, sir.
Will Lehner and Russ Reitz were there when it happened.
Glad that we can be friends. Glad that we can be friends.
For Ballard, the expedition offers an opportunity to clear up a common misconception.
Well, I think most people think that the first shot was fired with the Japanese. As they swooped over the Polly and descended on our sleeping fleet that Sunday morning. But in fact, the first shot was fired out here, and it was fired by a U.S. destroyer.
Not only was it the first shots fired by America in the war,